All right, everybody. Welcome to the 12th episode of the Potatocast. I am your host, Joaquin Matthews, joined with my co-host,
Jason Ellis.
And today we have a very special episode. We have a very special guest star, someone I met from work a couple years ago, but also a content creator of his own, Jake Camara from Hot Quality Content.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're doing good, Jake. Jake, really, the first question I have for you is, what's going on? How was your Christmas? How were your holidays?
Oh God. Well, they were actually really fun. My bank account is not happy about the Christmas holiday season, but that's par for the course at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a wild time. It was all kinds of fun, and I'm just really glad I survived it. So here we are into next year finally.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So currently, you guys over at Hot Quality Content, you guys released you guys had this big spurge of videos just get released at one video a day.
So we upload weekly, every Saturday actually at 12:30 circa Eastern time. So 9:30 a.m. for freaking Hollywood. But we upload every Saturday consistently, and we actually have the next few weeks slated just so that in case a meteor hits the earth, the channel will, from our graves, just carry on our content for a little bit longer, which is kind of nice. So we have that going on every Saturday. And last week specifically, we had several videos in a row because it was the end of the year. And every end of the year, we do several videos. We do top 10 of the year. We do the worst movies of the year. We do everything we saw in the year. We do everything that we want to see next, all kinds of major event ones. So every year around this time, we go ahead and just release a ton of content that week, and it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I checked out the channel earlier today, and I saw it was posted 1 day ago, posted 2 days ago, posted 3 days ago, and I was getting really self-conscious.
No. We upload weekly. We couldn't do daily consistently. We'd lose our minds.
No, yeah. Now that you're saying that.
Still, the fact that you do it weekly
even when you say weekly,
something...
that makes.
It honestly, it is a bit of a chore. So actually, what motivated us to start uploading consistently weekly was March last year. As we all know, there was a thing called COVID-19, and a pandemic actually hit. So yeah, I know. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. It's in the news and stuff. But basically, when that happened, we couldn't meet for the show anymore because we were all in lockdown. Mm-hmm. And Massachusetts, oddly enough, I'm sure you guys know this because you also live around here. Massachusetts was one of the ones that was least affected by it. Not least affected, but locked down well and didn't get hit with it as much at first, the rest of the country, like Florida, basically. So after a few months, we got back together. But the problem was the channel was dark for a few months. And that is, as you know, as content creators yourself, going dark is like poison. You know what I mean? You just slowly siphon off people who subscribe and care about you until they just disappear. And that's really kind of sad. And I couldn't change that. So when we came back, I think that day we met, because we meet every Saturday, instead of doing a video, I think we did 4 separate movies that day. And we kept pumping up every week. We just do 2 or 3 or 2 again. And we have so much backlogged content at that point. Now, if we go into another lockdown for whatever reason, our content is secure. We have, not to spoil it, but the next entire month of January is slated. So that's awesome for us. And we have that going on. So that's what kind of motivated us to start over-recording. And now we're at the point where we can kind of ease back a little bit and go back to once a week and give my freaking tiny pea-brain editing mind a little bit of a break. So that's kind of nice.
I can't imagine how many hours you spend, especially on those that top 10 films of the year video.
Yeah, it's funny. Those event videos Mud actually did because I've been doing every weekly video. So I've been doing all the previous weekly videos, all of our future weekly videos, and he was like, you know what? I've got a spare time in my hands. Why don't I take the long form just audio sections, because it's just editing the audio. I'm editing the audio and the movie visuals to our things. So yeah, it's a bit of an easier task. Relatively, it's not easy. So yeah, it's really good. And took it off my hands for a bit.
Yeah, nice. I mean, he did a good job with them. So
I'll tell him you said that.
Yeah, and speaking of you're kind of co-host of the show. like, let me ask you a question. Before the pandemic started, I was on 2 radio shows because you I don't know if you still currently do it because of the pandemic, but we did 2 radio shows at BSU, Bridgewater State.
Right.
Is that like still going on? And like,
Kind of no. So the thing is, the station as a whole shut down because students weren't allowed physically on campus, and the station was in the campus, obviously.
Right.
So we, like, by proxy, could not get in there, except the one guy who worked there could, and he doesn't have a radio show. He just works as a technician, and only he and no one else actually had access into that room that everyone records in. So they were dark. And now I think they're not. I think I keep in touch with the GM over there because I used to be GM over there. Now I believe they're all set again, and the option is open for us to come back and do a show. But the thing is, it's 2 extra hours of our time for way less of an audience than our already small audience on YouTube. Like, we've poured years into building up 1,000 subscribers, which is like abysmal to a lot of people on YouTube. But for us, that kind of matters. Like, that to me, that's what I'm doing it for.
Right.
And I'm really just gracious that every day it keeps growing. And I would rather pump time and effort and energy into that and grow that into what it is instead of going back to the college campus where we all met and all started and basically broadcasting over radio waves. Who listens to the radio waves anymore? Kind of no one.
Right.
Yeah. And I imagined it was like broadcasting in a very small area too.
Yeah, it purposely took a channel that was not claimed by a major radio station. So if you drive like too far from Bridgewater State University, guess what? You can't, you'll hear someone else's kind of rinky-dink little radio station instead.
Right.
So.
Now, when did you start at Bridgewater?
Oh, God, that had to be 2014. I've been there for like 6 years, give or take. It's only a 4-year degree I was going for, but I kind of dropped down to part-time halfway through so I could have a job that pays decent and a life, like a social life at all.
Right.
I did the opposite of what everyone else did, where everyone else is like, I'm just going to focus on classes to get out of it as soon as possible. And I was like, no, I don't mind being here. I just I kind of want to enjoy myself while I'm here.
Yeah.
And so did you start at the station like early on?
Kind of, yeah. I think not even our first year into the university, Ian, one of my co-hosts, he had connections. He was like, hey, my friends have a radio show, and if we all intern for a semester over there, then the next semester we can all make a show, and we can like have a show of our own. So we did that. We created, at the time it was just called Quality Content, and it was just Ian and I, no mud and no hot. So that started, and that was actually really fun, and we got a little bit of a following, but nothing too crazy. And our second year into it, we show up at the station, and there's some kid there. And we were like, oh, this is hot quality sorry, at the time it's quality content. This is quality contents block. It's our time to record. You're not supposed to be here yet. And he goes, oh, no, I'm here for quality content. And we were like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm an intern. I got slotted onto your show. We were like, oh, okay. So Ian and I kind of just went with it. And in my mind, I was kind of like, okay, well, we'll do it now because we were kind of unexpected about this, but I'll just let him know after that Ian and I work best as our own kind of entity. And we did the show, and he added a different voice to our show, and I think he made some really interesting kind of points as far as some things, because Ian and I agree a lot, and he actually disagreed in certain issues, and he brought something new to the table that we didn't consider with a lot of our talk points and movies and stuff like that. So, I mean, hell, after the first show, we were like, oh, well, I mean, there's no real, he's enhanced the show as far as being on the show, so there's no real consequence to bring in a third co-host, so we just kind of kept him. And he's been, it's Mud I'm talking about, by the way, M-U-D-D. It's funny, that's not his name. He's also Jake. We have to call him Mud, so there's not 2 Jakes on the show. So, so now it's hot quality content with Jake, Ian, and Mud. We changed to hot quality content because quality content, when you search on YouTube, there's like 50 different like meme channels, like high quality content, just quality content, or just the 2 words quality content over and over and over and over. And they're all just like posting clips that are stupid or dumb, like cat videos or whatever the hell you expect on the internet.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, we're buried like 100 channels deep when you search our name. Why not pick a name that is at least somewhat unique?
Right.
and we changed it to hot quality content, maintaining the original name, and I believe we're the first result. So that's kind of nice.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys do you said earlier that you have like around 500 subscribers, and like you guys do have like a bit of a following. You always get like a couple views on each of your videos, and that's not like you said earlier, that doesn't sound like that much, but I'm sure like just seeing the numbers come in, any numbers at all, like feels really personal to you.
It
Uh,
does. It kind of motivates me because I get comments, not terribly like often as like I don't get like 50 comments a day like a lot of people, but like I'll post a video, and by the time I wake up the next day, because I'll usually have done it like 2 a.m. I'll
right.
wake up and I'll wake up to like 3 or 4 or 5 comments on that video, and every single one of them, barring a few outliers, are like, "Wow, this is the funniest freaking thing in the world. You guys are fantastic." And the
Mhm.
fact that like we have such like I don't want to say unanimous, but overwhelming majority of praise for what we do. I mean, if I sucked, I would know it. Like they would very clearly either dislike it or our channel would not get any kind of traction or anything like that. But some of our videos hit. They
Mhm.
go, I don't want to say viral, but Speed Racer, specifically, is Speed Racer any good? That
Yeah.
video accreted 30,000 fucking views. And I did that video. So if you search like Speed Racer review on YouTube and you scroll down, I'm like, I think like the 10th or 15th result. I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mhm.
like, that's really kind of cool for me. Now, granted, if I did that every single week, then you bet your ass I'd be monetized. I could quit my job. But like, I
Right.
don't want to just go back to the same well doing the same crap. I'd rather do things that we're trying to do in a similar light, granted, but switch it up every week, make new exciting content. That's all basically the same concept of commentating on a movie and editing together the highlights, and that's really fun for me.
Right, right. And realistically, how many times could you talk about Speed Racer before it got old?
Thank you. There's one frickin' movie, and I don't watch any of the TV show. I'm not gonna go ahead and watch like this cartoon for children just to, like there's no point. So
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, and I didn't know what, like I said earlier, me and you, we met each other through work. We both worked at Staples. I think you're still there. Right now I'm kind of very low because of the pandemic, and I'm like I live with like a decent chunk of people. I'm trying to like keep everybody safe.
that's good.
So, like, I no longer am there. I'll probably end up coming back. I don't know yet, but I didn't know like you had any like you had a YouTube channel until I think you asked me if you wanted to go see the Sonic movie together with some of your friends, and that's kind of how like I was introduced to hot quality content. And I remember like watching some of your stuff at that point. I remember watching the Speed Racer video because I was like, I as weird as it sounds, anytime I find like a YouTube channel, I always sort by like most views first.
That's not weird. I do the same thing actually.
Yeah, so that's what I did. That's how like I got introduced to you guys, and you guys do like I know it's kind of like in the name, but you guys do make some hot quality content.
I'm flattered. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we did the Sonic review together, and then the world kind of went to shit, which was
Yep.
kind of unfortunate because like it we to it was gonna be we had like a big collaboration idea kind of going on. I feel like back then, because like I did the radio show with you guys, we were actually gonna take the radio show and maybe try to turn it into an episode of the Potatocast.
Right, right. So I
But the
remember that.
recording went. You guys only like recorded like the last 20 minutes of it or something like that.
Yeah, okay, so here's here's the thing. I will not name names because I'm not a fan of like airing dirty laundry on air. But there
Right.
is someone who worked at the radio station who I said, "Hey, record the 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. block for me. I'd appreciate that. I can't make it up there today." And they said, "Okay." And they screwed everything up. And then when I confronted them, they said, "No, that's how it was." And I showed them that that was not the correct way to do it. And they
Mhm.
recorded, however you just said, like a portion of the show. So yeah, you have the power to upload out of context half a conversation, maybe a third of a conversation, but like,
Right.
why would
Right.
you?
So, and Yeah, there was that, and I don't know if you remember, but at a certain point, we were also discussing doing. You guys have a segment on your show called Dealer's Choice, where one of you
Yes.
picked like the movie to watch for that. How often do you guys do that? Do you do that like once a month?
Once a week, actually. So we
Oh,
do that weekly,
okay.
and basically it cycles through. It goes me, Ian, and Mud,
Right.
and I started the show, so I was the first guy, and it goes in that order. And
Mm-hmm.
every week we'll watch one of our picks, and the next guy will announce his pick at the end of the show for the next week. So I think at the time of recording, anyway, we have up on the channel. Let me just double check because I'm not sure. There's a time difference between what's recorded and what's up.
Right.
Yeah, at the time of recording, the latest dealer's choice was Glen Ross from Ian. I think by the time you upload this, it might even have changed to Mud's pick or something along that. Oh no, I'm sorry. This specific month is going to be a special, and it might be announced at this point. It might not be, but there's a trailer for it. But every week is going to be a new installment in a franchise that has 4 movies, so there's a bit of a hint.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so Dealer's Choice technically uploads every other week, and we want to get back to every other week recording slates because every other week we'll do an episode of Dealer's Choice, and every
Mhm.
other week we'll do an episode of a franchise, so like a movie franchise. Like we just finished the James Bond series, so
Right.
for the longest time it was Dealer's Choice, and then the next week would be a Bond, Dealer's Choice the next week, and the Bond after that, and just on and on and on. So yeah, that's kind of how our channel is set up. So that way we can do like um, popular, famous movie series that everyone knows the name of and that'll attract people. But
Mhm.
also we can choose what movies we record because we used to just do like thons. We call them thons, but we used to just do marathons of just these massive franchise movies like Star Wars and just do that every week. But that got kind of samey, and we
Mhm.
wanted to switch it up by like selecting our own. But yes, back to your point initially. I know I rambled on a little bit. Yes, we were debating, not even debating, it was basically locked in that maybe you could guest on the show and you would, out of nowhere, Joaquin from Potatocast could pick a dealer's choice and kind of surprise us with it. And then we could like sit down the 4 of us instead of 3 of us and go in. So far, we have not had a guest on Dealer's Choice yet, and that would be pretty freaking cool. But it's got to be in person, and that's the big problem because
You're
syncing
right.
up
Right.
audio while watching a
No,
movie while recording in person is kind of hellish, let alone
right.
virtually.
Right. Syncing up this audio, does take, even though like we before the show, we like try to sync up our audio with like claps and stuff like that, but even for this, it is kind of like a headache because sometimes if there's like a skip in anybody's audio recording, now you have to like cut up that section and resync it with everybody else's audio.
Oh yeah,
So
and on top of that too, like aside from the technical problems, there's a certain kind of synergy you get when being in a room with all your friends watching a movie
right.
and either enjoying it together or pointing at it and laughing at the dumb shit together. Like there's a power in that, and you lose
Hmm.
that by doing it virtually, because then you're just
Right.
alone in your room going, "Ha. I hope they also laughed." You know, like it's not,
Hmm.
it just doesn't the same thing at all.
I I will say, if things with like the pandemic start easing up and things are like relatively safe again in the next couple of months, I would be open to that idea of, if you wanted me, of course, if you wanted me, I would be open to that idea because I think I told you I already had like an idea for a movie I wanted to pick, and I still don't want
Mm-hmm.
to tell you what it is because there is some history with you and me with something related to this movie. So I want to
Okay,
keep it
good,
as like
good.
secret as possible. But if you ever need it, just know I'll be there. All right.
Fair enough. Okay, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of funny because as far as being COVID safe, Ian and Mud, when they come over my house to do this, I've converted this room into a studio. We're all very socially as distant as we possibly can be, and they wear masks. I mean, I don't because it's my
Oh.
room, and there's no point in me wearing a
Right.
mask in my own room. I breathe on every. I've licked every single object in here. Damn it! No.
Wait.
So there's
Since
no
when?
point.
Since when? Since when?
But
Because I
no.
was in that room.
Why don't we keep that secret?
All right.
No. So they will come in and they wear their masks and they're very like socially distant and they only take it off when we're all eating because we all get food every Saturday because we're just idiots and oof, we spent a lot of money on takeout. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, we're all very COVID safe as possible. But we all recognize that they do kind of have to come over, because if they didn't, there wouldn't really be a show and there wouldn't really be a channel. So we all kind of care about the channel. So we're doing our very best, and you know what? None of us have gotten it, so keeping
that's good.
Safe as we can possibly be.
Hey, that's good. I'm happy you guys are all staying safe, and now knowing that, I mean, maybe we'll be in touch.
Well, maybe that sounds like a possible endeavor in the future.
But speaking about movies, this past we're recording this on the 3rd, so this past little bit over a week, 2 movies came out. The first one I kind of want to get into is Wonder Woman 84. Okay. Now, I'll say it. Because Jason, I know Jason likes DC. You're more of a DC guy, right, Jason?
Well, okay, not the movies. I'm
okay.
If I take it when you say more DC, you're comparing DC to Marvel.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, when it comes to the movies, I enjoy much more Marvel movies than I do DC movies. But in terms of like overall, like, I guess characters, I do enjoy the DC characters quite a bit, and I do have some controversial DC movie opinions as well. But
out of curiosity, because we're probably just going to dive right into it, what's your most controversial DC movie opinion? Because I, too,
Good question.
am an aficionado in the world of Detective Comics Cinematic Universe. Extended Cinematic. They're calling it different things now. I don't care.
I think it's probably, I really, really enjoy Batman vs. Superman.
Get out! You know what's so funny? I do not hate that movie.
Like, I walked out of it. I saw it like the week I think it came out. And I walked out of it like, wow, that was a really good time. And then everybody started to review it. And I was just in the minority.
You know what's funny? I came out of that movie thinking like, wow, this is a really strong, solid movie, but with a lot of weird plot holes. And then I watched the Ultimate Edition, and I was like, wow, this is a strong movie. And I watched it recently, and I still like it, but I don't think as highly as I did. I think I was hyped up at the time because those trailers really pumped me up.
Right. Those trailers were
kind of
amazing.
removing yourself from that hype kind of sphere kind of gives you a little more like objective, kind of level-headed criticism. And you know what? I would still, at the end of the day, after all that, I would give it a positive review.
Same.
Yeah. Jake, do you have like a controversial, aside from your Batman vs. Superman thoughts? Yeah. Do you have like a controversial DC opinion?
Well, I'll share one about me, and I'll also share one about Ian, because I think his is a lot hotter of a take.
Ooh,
I have a pretty cold take. My coldest take, which of course means it's popular, is that, yeah, Marvel movies are generally better than DC movies, but The Dark Knight beats all of them. And there's no way around that. For me, that's like, no matter what Marvel does, unless on accident they create the next Dark fucking Knight, they're not going to top The Dark Knight. So even Logan, which was really good, does not top it for me. But Ian, we have this running joke on the show just because he has this opinion. But he is a huge fan of the fictional character Green Lantern from media. And he watched and really liked the movie.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you guys know what's out. Yeah, you know what's coming. You guys are dreading it. No, he loved that movie, and we watched it for the show. It was the second episode of Dealer's Choice, because he goes second. The second episode ever, Dealer's Choice number 2. We did Green Lantern, and Mud and I gave it like, I think 1 or 2 out of 10, and he's like, there, like, yeah, it's a 9. It's like,
oh
okay.
God, no.
Whoa, bit of a jump. So yeah, it's good shit.
Well, okay. Do you know whether or not he likes that more than The Dark Knight?
No.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
Well, oh no, I say that, but I know he likes Begins more than Dark Knight. So I don't know where Green Lantern ranks among the Nolan trilogy of Batman. Maybe it's the greatest film of all time, Second Coming of Christ, who knows? But I mean, I would I would hope for his personal health and well-being that he doesn't rank Green Lantern above The Dark Knight. But hey, to each their own, I suppose.
Yeah, you might have to ask him. Might have to like shoot him a text so we can, see where his thoughts are on that. As for me, my spiciest DC opinion, which is about as spicy as this delicious bottle of Fiji we're all enjoying. My my spiciest DC opinion is I think Man of Steel is like good.
Oh, I think it's a masterpiece.
Really?
That movie. I love that.
You
movie.
do?
I love
Oh.
Man of Steel.
Oh, I hate to start us off on the first episode of me guesting on the wrong foot, but that movie sucks.
Oh,
Oh,
no, come
ooh,
on.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you.
Hold on. Would you like to start you first with saying what's great about it, or should I start and fire directly in?
I kind of like taking the opposition side of things, so I kind of want to like see if I can counter any of your arguments. So
Fair
let's
enough.
go with you first.
Okay, so the movie starts too many times. Krypton's prologue being like 20, 25, 3 hours long. I'm exaggerating, but the really long Krypton prologue doesn't add a whole lot to the story. You can definitely condense that down. But what makes it even more insulting is that halfway through the movie, Superman walks into the ship and he's like, "Wow, Ghost Dad, that's cool." And then Ghost Dad goes, "Oh my God, long ago we were on Krypton and we did this and we did that and the Codex and you're the Codex." And it's like I've just watched almost all that exposition for 20 minutes to start off my Superman movie, and now you're telling me again? Like, that's more emblematic of a narrative issue with the movie, in that the pacing and the structure of how the scenes are told and the order in which they're told is really... It reminds me a lot of Batman Begins. Like, Warner is trying to, well, Batman is successful this way, let's do Superman this way. It's like they don't translate the same because they're not nearly the same character. The whole point of Batman fighting Superman and Batman v Superman is that they're different characters, and I feel like the Man of Steel Superman is so similar to Batman that they feel like the same fucking character when they're fighting.
Okay.
Sorry,
all right.
that's more the sequel talk than anything else.
Right. But you know, to counter a couple of things you said there, I'll go off like the latest one you said. You said that Superman feels more like a Batman. I don't really see that. I see the way they took Superman is in like first of all, it was like the first movie to like start off this franchise, which I'm sure they weren't planning on like it becoming like a cinematic universe at that point, but at least starting off like the first Superman movie. And for what they did, like you kind of have to get like the exposition out of the way. You kind of have to get like the introduction out of the way. You have to like make sure people think Superman makes sense. And I think the way they did that obviously could have been like shortened, but it's to me that's passable. And you know, Superman is kind of like maybe not as Superman-y as people would probably think. And by that I mean like he's not as like happy in Man of Steel. He's kind of like he's got problems to face, but I don't want to watch a movie where like there's no issue besides like having to fight the villain, especially if it's like a character introduction story. I think the way they like introduced like Superman's character like fit really well with the version they were trying to tell essentially. But yeah, I will agree that the movie does go on like a bit too long and obviously could have been chopped down in some places, and that's actually a problem I have with a movie we're going to be talking about pretty soon. But but the things I like about it, which you didn't really mention, and I don't know if it's because you don't like about it, is I think like the fight scenes are like the action scenes are like really really good. Even though it has like shaky cam, which I think is just terrible because I don't like the idea of like Superman being filmed. That's kind of like what I get with the idea of like shaky cam. But I do think like the action scenes in general are like pretty good and probably like the best you're gonna get with like skyscrapers coming down for like a Superman film.
It's weird to me because that you mentioned a little bit about the shaky cam. Zack Snyder doesn't just use shaky cam for the action scenes. He uses it in every shot almost in that movie. If you notice, like, even the stages on Krypton where Jor-El and Michael Shannon are just talking to each other, like, the camera is shaking. It's like, why? What is the purpose of this scene to have a shaky cam? The planet is either having an earthquake right now, or it's like trying to convey the message of like, oh, this is chaotic. But we know it's chaotic based on the tone, style, music, the fact that they're talking about Krypton exploding. We don't need to keep shaking the camera. And I don't know if you guys like or dislike this, but it's part of Zack Snyder's style. But it's the sequences where there's a camera, it's a wide shot, and it'll just kind of follow someone, and then it'll punch in really close. And like, oh my god, he flew right past, and it's still following him, punching in really, like, it's kind of frustrating to me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. There are movies that do it well. I do appreciate those. I mean, I can think of a few movies off the top of my hand that do shaky cam pretty well. I'm thinking of Bourne right now. And the punch-ins, I think in select scenes work. Like, for example, when Zod's ship kind of flies to Earth and Clark from the farmhouse looks up, it looks it and it shows his big vision and it zooms right in. It's like, oh, that makes sense. What a clever shot. But it's kind of undercut by the fact that, I don't know, it's just, it's the whole movie. So it's kind of, now I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's throughout, it's prominent the whole movie. So,
Right.
And then what you were saying about the buildings being leveled. Dear God, that was... I don't even know how many 9/11s would equal the end of Man of Steel as far as just pure death, destruction, chaos. It's weird because after the world engine stops and it turns off because Superman flew through it or something, you see the city and it is level. There's nothing standing. It is already like obliterated. There's nothing else. Like, so humans that were there aren't even dead. They're eviscerated.
Yeah.
And that was in like miles radius around them. And then they fight Man of Steel, Zod and Superman, and then they go at it and take down like 30 more buildings. And it's like, dear God, like there aren't even enough planes to hijack in the world to cause that many 9/11s in one city. Like that's insane. It just felt so, I don't know. It's so weird to me that in a Superman movie where you're supposed to save the day, and you know what? I'll say this. I'll defend the movie a little bit. I liked the fact that he had to kill Zod. I will defend that.
Yeah.
Because based on what Zod was doing and what he wanted to do to Earth, you had no choice. He was going to kill those people. I take issue with the fact that Superman killed him after he killed 4,901,000 people. 4,902,000 people is my cutoff limit. I can't kill more than 4,900,000. Like, that's kind of weird to me. You should have done that either way sooner or brought him to space or something to have your big final brawl or just kill him right then. Like, I don't know. I feel like Clark really, really fucked up, and all the controversy in the movie, as far as Batman vs. Superman's beginning, that says, like, the world doesn't like Superman, that's all justified and earned, and there should be more of it. So, yeah.
For me, I think it works much better as, like, if you view it as, like, a solo film. I think as part of a franchise, there are many more problems arise from it, but I just like how it shows, like, what would happen if a man with this power actually, like, arrived on Earth. Like, they would take down, 30 skyscrapers and kill many people. There's also a man that doesn't really know, like, what power, like the lengths of his power, how to control it, or like what it means to be Superman. Technically, he wears the Superman costume, but he really isn't Superman in this movie. He's just an adult who has he's never done this before,
Right, but do you think that's a good thing for the movie?
I think it's a very interesting take on Superman because it's something that we've never seen in visual media before. Typically, we see the clean cut. Obviously, there's the Christopher Reeve Superman. There's the animated Superman stuff. We see the clean cut, kind of straight out of the comic books type of character. I like the more grounded, like, what if, well, quote unquote grounded. It's Superman, but what if this man with this much power was dropped into a metropolis, no pun intended, a metropolis, and there's another one that he has to fight. Like, what the destruction would be from that. I'm fine without seeing the clean cut Superman, which there's a chance they do a Man of Steel 2 and they do go that route, which would be cool. But I think as a standalone, like, it's really more of an alien movie than a Superman movie, is the way that I view it.
That's fair enough. I mean, like, to even kind of round out this discussion by siding with you guys, I think that the scene where Superman learns how to fly for the first time, that is spectacular. Like, if there's anything Zack Snyder is fucking good at, it's how to build the pure awe of a situation. Whether that situation deserves awe or not, unfortunately. But that situation did, and it built it with Superman crouching on the ground. You see his fist hit the ice. You see the flakes of ice float around his fist. You got Jor-El's narration in the background. You're going to give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards, and they'll stumble behind you and they'll fall. That just hits. that hits
Mhm.
so hard, and then he rockets up and you got the Hans Zimmer score. And I'm sorry, I love John Williams to death. He's probably my favorite composer. But the Hans Zimmer Superman score is probably better than John Williams' Superman score. And I love that score so much.
Mhm.
But damn, that sequence with that theme and those visuals of him flying, that's an appropriate use of punch-ins, by the way, when he's zooming past the camera. It was beautiful. It was just beautiful. It's that like 5 or 6 minute sequence is just, I'd say art, maybe.
Okay, now keep that thought because we'll be talking about flight scenes later.
Oh, yes, we will. Oh, I know
Yes,
exactly what you're talking about.
All right, Jason, anything else to say about Man of Steel before we actually like move on to Wonder Woman?
No, I'm fine. We can just move. We can move on to one.
Oh, all right, okay. So Wonder Woman, Woman Wonder, 8419. Let me ask you guys this. Actually, you know what? Let me start with like my general thoughts on this movie. I'll be the one to flat out say it because I didn't see the review of the hot quality content review, but in the films that you guys watched, I did watch that, and I'm pretty sure you guys gave it like a disgustingly high review. In that, I did not like this movie. This
Okay.
movie was so incredibly boring, and like I did not watch the first Wonder Woman movie, and the only reason why I watched this was to like discuss something later on in the show. But I didn't. So I don't know what the like relevance of the first 20 minutes of the movie is, but I feel like you could have just completely cut that out. That just completely dragged on. There was nothing interesting there. I think they were just trying to show like all the pretty colors and like the nice landscapes. That's all they were trying to do there, because that part of the film was filmed in IMAX. You can tell because the aspect ratio like changes when it gets to the
I didn't even
80s
notice
part of
that.
the film. Yeah, it's like filmed in the IMAX
Right.
aspect ratio, and personally, it's a huge pet peeve of mine when films change aspect ratio in the middle. Because like you just be consistent. It was really jarring to see it like jump from like 16:10 to like 21:9. That was really jarring. Yeah, so skipping past the intro, the introduction fight scene is probably like one of the best things about this movie, and even that wasn't really good because it was just like Wonder Woman dicking around in a mall with
Do you
like
mean the mall? Oh, you do mean the mall scene.
yeah. It was just Wonder Woman dicking around in a mall, like, you know, trying to save the day. And, like, it was all right. You know, it was passable, but I feel like you could have cut, like, this movie was trying to show that it was, like, trying to be the 80s for a large majority of it, but you could cut that stuff out with, like, without any consequence. I'm kind of rambling at this point. But I don't know. Max
Okay.
Gold is clearly just trying to be Trump.
Lord?
Max Lord? Oh, sorry.
As if it matters at all.
Right. Trump. Trump was a pretty decent villain in like the beginning half of the movie, but towards the end it was just like full out I am Donald Trump. I am screaming into this camera about how I want to make like everything great for you, but I'm like gonna take something for myself in the process for that. In that.
I honestly, the kind of what I said when you mentioned the aspect ratio, I didn't get that at all from the movie. I didn't get
Really?
No, I did not. I didn't think for a second Trump when I saw Max Lord.
White hair, not white hair, white dude, blonde hair, basically took the presidency.
No, I
lying to
get what
people,
I get what
telling-
you're saying.
Do you at least kind of see it? Because I feel I don't know.
No.
I
I think
like,
when you say it, pieces add up, but
Mhm.
I don't think it was as apparent as perhaps you saw it.
Okay.
Unless
Well-
somebody else, unless I'm in the minority with that.
Right.
No, I would side with you, Jason. I don't know if I saw that specifically, although, like what you just said, yeah, when you add it all, if you write it all down on paper, it kind of looks like it. I don't know. I liked most of this movie. There's
Mm.
a lot of really dumb crap and the dumb crap is keeping it from like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm down to like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 or something along those lines. But I give it a positive review. The problems that I have are mostly the cartoon logic and the really goofy sequences.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from the fact that it has to be a blockbuster, which doesn't even make sense because now it's on streaming anyway by force. Aside from that crap, I'd say that the story here is actually kind of pretty good. I would really, I do appreciate their themes that they're going for in that movie. That's what kind of propels it above for me. I loved Gal Gadot and I loved Chris Pine. I liked how they brought him back, although I have a few questions about the logic, as per usual with this movie. But
it's kind of creepy how they brought him back too.
We'll get into I'm sure we'll get into that because I'm sure all three of us have something to say about how very bizarre that was.
Yeah.
But I guess for the time being, I really one of the things about the first Wonder Woman movie that surprised me was that Gal Gadot did a really great job portraying that character, and I knew that she didn't really do much prior. She was in Fast and Furious as like girl number 7, I guess, but. She got her first starring role, or big franchise role, I should say, besides Fast and Furious, in Batman vs Superman as Wonder Woman. And I thought she was all right, but she was barely in it. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of nervous going in. The movie is going to rest on her shoulders. And she did a great job with that first one. And this one, what really stood out to me is that her character is portrayed a lot more vulnerable physically, obviously throughout the plot of the movie.
Right.
But as far as mentally, she's a lot more renowned. She's not naive. She's not the fish out of water. Now Chris Pine obviously plays the fish out of water character. And I thought their camaraderie was equal to, if not better than their camaraderie in the first Wonder Woman. I thought they both, her and Chris Pine, did a fantastic job bringing these characters back. Everything that the movie says is logic is just gone. That's just not there. We'll get into all that. You've already started getting into it. You've touched on some pretty big things. I cannot wait to discuss that further. But as far as the execution of the acting and some of the writing of the characters, actually most of the writing of the characters, I think was really strong and well handled. I think that's what Patty Jenkins does best, is characters. And I think if nothing else, this movie nails that. And it kind of didn't really nail much else as far as the action. We'll get there.
Right.
We'll get there.
I will say the story is the best part of this film. The action, all the action scenes are just completely. They're either forgettable or they're awful. That's okay. But Jason, what about you? How do you like? What do you think about this movie?
Let me preface this before going into it. This is where my mindset was. I hadn't seen the original Wonder Woman. Well, when I say original, I mean the first Gal Gadot one. Since I saw it in theaters, and when I came out of it, my immediate reaction was that was a very cut and paste superhero movie. I thought I was like very much like meh. It was okay. It felt very formulaic, the first one. And I didn't think that was Patty Jenkins' fault. She didn't write it. She actually wasn't the original director. She was brought in later. I thought Patty Jenkins did a fine job with what she was handed. But I thought it was just kind of a, okay, it's all right superhero movie. So my expectations for this one already at that were kind of low. Then the reviews came out for it. The very mixed reviews. Because compared to the first Wonder Woman was very much praised. And this one, now with mixed reviews, I was like, all right, then it's definitely going to be worse. And I think I had this kind of similar but opposite sort of effect for both movies that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about the other one later. But with Wonder Woman, I went in with really low expectations. And I ended up really, really enjoying it. I get what you were saying, Joaquin, with the intro and certain elements of the pacing. Where technically, yes, the intro sequence, it didn't have to be that long. It could have been taken out. But I thought it was a fun sequence, though. Was it important to the story overall? No, there was like little tiny like themes from it that would play out through the rest of the story, but it wasn't like super important. But it was fun. I thought the story was fun. For me, the cheesiness and the campiness of certain things actually kind of was elevated because of how it was presented. Kind of what you said, they were really trying to drive home that this is the 80s. even to the point where they added film grain to it. I don't know if maybe it was shot on film. I don't think it was though.
It was shot on
Oh,
film.
it was. Okay. So
Yeah.
they had film grain and stuff. They tried to make it. They tried to really drive that 80s theme home. And from the beginning, like from the mall scene, is where my brain kind of flipped to where it's like, oh, this is supposed to be like a cheesy, campy 80s superhero movie. And with that sort of, maybe not cheesy, but kind of somewhat campy, over the top superhero movie. And when that switch kind of flipped in my head, I had a great time with the rest of the movie. Even when stuff was like ridiculous, I was like, oh, it's fine. If this was an 80s movie, it would be ridiculous. And yeah, so I had a good time. There were certain things that were like the villain, which we might touch on a bit more in depth later, but like there were certain things where like, oh, the logic you have to really kind of stretch a little bit, but I was fine with it because it's also like weird magic stuff too. Like when you throw that in, it's almost like with Star Wars with the Force, where it's like, well, it's you can use that as an excuse for anything. It's the Force. When there's an element of magic in there, I was like, well, even if stuff like kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it doesn't really bother me that much because you can just say, oh, it was magic or whatever. But yeah, I had a surprisingly good time with this movie, much more than I was expecting.
I mean, as someone who rated it positively, I have to go ahead and disagree with a few of your points there. You said that the magic kind of, you didn't say this, but you were implying that the magic kind of acts as like this kind of like butter to make the pill go down of the dumb crap, but like to kind of like sugarcoat it a little bit. I'm putting words in your mouth, I'm sorry. But that was fine. The moral of that. So you compared it to the Force. Although the Force in, I'd say the entire Star Wars saga is internally consistent, and it doesn't contradict itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, the logic of Wonder Woman 84 did a lot of... It broke its own rules, and it kind of really frustrated me when it did that. And there were some sequences where things would just happen that weren't established prior, and that kind of frustrated me. It felt like a writer trying to write in a dumb thing, and they go, I don't know, magic? And it really... Like, for example, when they do the invisible jet, I'm so on board with their explanation that Zeus made the whole Themyscira invisible, and therefore, since she's the daughter of Zeus brought to life by him, she would have that power. I'm so on board with that explanation. That's a great explanation. However, they didn't do anything with it prior to that point. They didn't even mention it. So she just goes, oh yeah, I have this power. Blip. Whole jet's invisible right away. Like, come on. You could have... If you're writing a story and you have these fantastical elements, you have to go ahead and make sure the audience is primed to get ready for them. Otherwise, they're going to be completely lost, or they're going to be on board with it and then get really mad at it when you do some dumb crap like that. But then, more so to kind of what frustrated me the most and what kept it from being like a great movie is the wishing logic. Everything with the logic. I didn't hate the character of Maxwell Lord. I thought he was fine. I think he exemplifies the most outlandish of men who try and desire power to solve their problems and the slippery slope that goes down. I get that completely. But the logic of the Dreamstone, I should say, it just went completely out the window. And to the point where, like, everyone gets one wish. Like, that's what the magic rules were. He tried to make that guy wish that he had an interview, and the guy was like, yeah, I do, and nothing happened. And he said, oh, yeah, it's because you've already wished once.
Right.
And then later, when Cheetah, regular Barbara, not Cheetah yet, regular Barbara walks up to him in the plane, and she's like, I'm so evil, I can't wait to be a cheetah woman. And then Maxwell Lord is like, oh, you want to be a cheetah woman? Guess what the fuck's going to happen? Because I'm going to feel so generous, you're going to get your cheetah wish part 2. You get a second cheetah wish. And it's like, no, you don't get a second cheetah wish. You get one wish. Everyone gets one wish. So then this culminates in the finale, where Maxwell Lord is using a satellite to beam his particle-ness to everybody, to touch everyone, kind of, which doesn't make sense. But sure, let's just give it a pass.
Yeah, I'm so happy everybody speaks English, by the way.
Yeah, it was really convenient.
Oh, and all those like computer displays that like can't render color, that all of them like in color too. That was great.
Dude, I'll do you one better. How about like a 3-year-old who goes, I wish everyone was a dinosaur. Like, what?
Yeah.
I wish the world was Candyland. You know, like, there's so much dumb shit happening that would be happening. But regardless, He's touching everyone. You got to give it a pass on that, too. It's like, okay. So Wonder Woman is going to stop him using a combination of flying and Spider-Man swinging, which doesn't make sense. Do one or the other. And she shows up, and Cheetah's there. And she goes, I'm the double-wished Cheetah Woman. I'm going to fight you so hard. And Diana goes, it's okay. I have this, the armor of Linda Carter, which has lasted 2,000 years in all kinds of battles. It breaks in one fucking brawl in 10 seconds. Wow. What strong, amazing Amazonian armor. And then that happens, and then she stops Cheetah by going into a pool and electrifying the pool and not getting zapped herself, even though A, she's surrounded by metal, and B, she got hurt by lightning by Ares in the last film. But okay, give all that a pass as well. And then she gets into Maxwell Lord's little satellite, breaks the satellite. Satellite still works for some reason. And then he's still going, granted, and his eyes are like freaking out or whatever. Wonder Woman, from 20 feet across the room, tries to lasso him. The lasso flies away because he has the force now. She tries again, but a little harder this time. And we don't see it as an audience touch him, but at this point it is touching him. It's making contact with his ankle.
It's wrapped around his leg.
Woman, right. Wonder Woman has a monologue at like whisper level. It's like Captain America in Avengers Endgame. Avengers, assemble. She talks about like, humans of Earth, you guys are so good. You guys should just stop being sad all the time, and you guys should just wish to take away your wish, and you're great. And this monologue, for some reason, gets magically transferred into her arm, into the lasso, into the ankle of the corpse of Pedro Pascal to beam into space via broken satellite to everyone in the whole world who hears it, and A, comprehends what the hell she's saying, and B, goes, good point, weird, mysterious voice via magic. I guess I'll recant my wish, and everyone simultaneously recants their wish. You can't. There comes a point where you've given so many soft passes to a lot of bullshit that's already happened individually, but you hit this point of no return where you've just overloaded on dumb. And one more thing, because I'm about to pass it over, because I really do want to hear what you guys have to say about this sequence. And this is specifically for you, Jason, who really enjoyed Batman vs. Superman. Okay. Did you recognize A Beautiful Lie by Hans Zimmer from Batman vs. Superman during the Martha scene, the score of the Martha scene, play as Wonder Woman monologued?
I did not realize that, no.
Beat for beat. So to context, I worked in a movie theater in 2016, so I've actually heard the end credits of BVS like 7 or 8 times because we come in after to clean the show. And the Hans Zimmer score for BVS is like memorized and burned into my head. He used his own score, because he did this movie too. He used his own score beat for fucking beat. I swear they just took the MP3 file and uploaded it to Wonder Woman 84. So that was really weird for me. But anyway, I've rambled enough. What do you guys have to say? So
let me kind of backtrack on what I said. So with the...
I'm sorry, I threw a lot at you.
No, you do have a lot of valid points. Do I think that the magic forgives everything in the movie, or the 80s camp? It doesn't forgive everything. There are certain things that you mentioned that like especially stuff with the stone and like the wishes. That stuff, I had to like, while the movie was going, almost like map it out in my head like how it worked, and I don't think I fully understood until the end, and I still don't even know if I fully understood how it worked. But what I gathered from it, though, was Cheetah didn't make a second wish. I believe that somehow, and again, this is kind of, I think, lazy writing, but I think Maxwell being the stone was able to, because you know how, like, the stone takes people's things? I think he was able to just, instead of him taking it, give it to her. I think that was supposedly the reasoning behind her being able to become Cheetah Woman.
So if he gets, I don't think she wished on valuable. I'm sorry to interrupt. The way I understood that was that he took the thing of most value to the person who made the wish. Who was a Cheetah Woman?
I'm
not getting true. Like, where did he get that?
I think he worded like your prowess or your whatever. No, that is true. And yeah, the stone stuff was very confusing to me. Like, because at first, before they kind of explained it, I was like, wait, why is he just taking people's stuff after he grants them a wish? That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Then they were like, oh, the stone takes what's most precious to you or whatever, most valuable.
Right.
But then it's like,
does he get to decide that?
That's what I think. Because at first I was like, but why is he taking people's like oil and not like, I don't know, their actual like life? You would imagine that's like what's most precious to most people is like being alive. But I think because he was the stone, like the stone chooses what's most valuable or whatever. Again, that's like I think lazy writing, but I
don't think so, because when you talk to the oil guy who raised like the Great Wall of Egypt, he was like, okay, I'll take your whole thing. And he's like, I don't have it. He's like, all right, bet. I'll take your guards instead. And he just had his guards.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about that one.
He like decides like what he. Also, earlier what you guys were saying, like, why did she like turn into a cheetah? Did you guys not see like the foreshadowing where Diana was wearing cheetah heels?
No, I didn't get that at all.
When Barbara drops the papers on the floor, Diana like goes to help her pick it up, and like you see the cheetah heels like lock into frame. So Barbara like somehow remembered like the heels and was like, I want to be a cheetah.
She also wore cheetah print later on too. So I mean, I already knew that she was playing cheetah in the movie. That's something I already knew. So perhaps that's why it was kind of lost on me. I guess the cheetah heels thing. But yeah, no, that is strange. And there's other small stuff. Like there's no way that every single person in the world would recant their wish.
Thank you.
There's no way that not one person is like greedy and they would still choose to keep their wish anyways. But that's stuff that I don't know. It might just be because I went into this with like low expectation to begin with, and then there was the fact that there was like 80s camp in my head. But that was something that I was like, I don't know, I guess everybody did it. It didn't bother me that much. It was something that like I noticed where I was like, especially when there was like a terrorist that was like, I recant my wish or whatever, holding like a gun in his hand.
I remember that scene. So he wished for nukes in the war. If remember going back to that scene.
Yeah.
He wished for like, I wish there were so many nukes, so many more nukes than are currently firing at different countries, and then it cut to like 100 nukes turning into like 200 nukes, and then in the war, this guy is not watching TV. I'm sorry. I recant my wish, and then the nuke's just like, you're in the war. What the hell are you talking about?
So like,
it just doesn't make sense that he would recant his wish at that point.
Yeah, it was stuff that I thought about, and like, we'll probably talk about like visually other cheesy stuff, especially when it comes to like the flying and stuff like that, and action sequences. But like, it was stuff that like when it happened, I thought about it, where I was like, it made me think that doesn't make any sense. But then after I thought that, I was like, oh well, because I didn't really have high expectations going in anyways. But yeah, and then kind of similarly, because I guess we can get into the action now, unless anybody else had anything else to say. But like
effects over action, or do you want to go into action first, or do you want to kind of mix them both together?
Wait, what was the first thing you said?
Effects. The effects.
Yeah, we can lump them in together because
they kind of go hand in hand.
They do go hand in hand. Do you guys want to talk about action sequences or the flying first?
I want to talk about the flying first.
Joaquin, I know you're ready to pop off about the flying, so just take us away.
Oh my god, they're awful. Like you were just earlier you were talking about like the Man of Steel flight scenes and how like those are really, really good. And I agree with you. Those are really, really good. Some of the best parts of the movie. Diana's flying scenes are just like her like remembering in her head what I can't remember his name is. I can't. Steve, remembering like what Steve was saying about flying, how it's just like grabbing the wind, and then like she's not flying, she's just like doing like the Thor thing at first, like throwing her whip to like drag herself across the wind, and then she's like pushing herself. Meanwhile, her hair is never blowing in the right direction at any point of the flying sequence. Like, and it goes on for so long. So, and like you notice this stuff. You notice how like absolutely, it's. I feel like there's not a lot to say about it other than it's terrible.
Right.
And I have a little bit to say on it because
go ahead because as someone that likes the movie, I want to know what you say.
I actually didn't hate the scenes where she established she learned how to fly. I kind of took issue with the fact that she's like 2,000 years old, and I guess I'll remember how to fly now, I guess. But aside from that, I thought it was fine. It's nowhere near Man of Steel's level of flying, which is just spectacular. Even though I don't like that movie, I think those scenes are amazing. But it's not that great. But I do like the scenes where she flies. My issue is more systemic and ties back to what I was saying earlier, which is that it's inconsistent because she just learned how to fly. She goes, "Yay, I can fly now if I do a T pose like Jesus and soar through the air or whatever." And then I do the Superman pose and kind of fly. And then the very next scene, she pulls out her whip and like Spider-Man swings off the lightning or the building or whatever. And it's like, why are you doing this? What's the point? You can fly. You just learned that. We just showed via this like extended sequence that you just learned how to fly. And now you need to Spider-Man swing with your whip?
Yeah.
No, you can fly now. So do you need to charge up with the whip to like one swing is about like 10 miles of flight before it starts to run low on battery? You gotta swing again on more lightning. It was just the dumbest thing. It is not unclear what the hell is happening there.
Now,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, because you've also you brought up things that have to do with Batman vs Superman and stuff. She can't fly in that movie, right?
No, not at all. There's one weird shot at the end of Wonder Woman where she's fighting Ares, where Ares hits her with lightning, which she is vulnerable to canonically with the series, and she blocks it with her wrist blocky things, and she jumps up in the air. And it's a weird, like, 5 seconds where she's just floating in the air. Unclear if it's, like, slow-mo time for us or if she's literally just floating there.
Right.
But I took that as, okay, what a weird shot choice. I know she can't fly based on the entire movie behind it and after it at that point. But aside from that one weird shot, no. In the entire 1, 2, 3, 4 movies she's in, she cannot fly until this very sequence where she learns it and then unlearns it and then learns it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I shouldn't focus on that too much because DC, they consistency in general, they're not very good with, especially with the new DCEU. They've kind of soft retconned a lot of stuff, but yeah, that was something that kind of popped out when she learned to fly. Where I was like, I don't think did she forget how to do this in like, what would it be, 20 years, 30 years,
20
or 40?
Oh, you mean like because
40?
84? You mean 84 is a prequel? I see what you mean.
Yeah,
so
84 to Batman vs Superman, where she can't fly in that movie.
that's a good point too. Did she choose not to fly? No, because she went on that airliner specifically to fly, so she could get to the fight, kind of. But she flew from wherever to. Oh, but you know what? If it has a 10-mile radius and extraction point until it runs out of battery, she has to whip more lightning. Maybe she can't whip lightning overseas.
Yeah,
Dear God, these are stupid
Yeah.
things. Oh, but yeah, I don't know. No, her forgetting how to fly. If Patty Jenkins makes a third one, she says it's going to be modern day. That might be problematic because there's too many differences between the end of this movie and the start of BVS, and also Justice League as a film, which is just chaos. But there's too many like differences between the 40-year time skip that you kind of need to fill in a lot of these holes.
And then there's even the question of like, is Justice League even canon anymore with the new Justice League like 4-hour Zack Snyder version coming out to HBO? Like everything with DC canon is just kind of up in the air.
Yeah. So I've done an absurd amount of research into the Snyder Cut. For context, I'm very excited for it. Like absurdly. Like I cannot wait to watch this thing. Even if it's terrible, I'll probably enjoy it at the end of the day. But
That's
the
crazy.
thing is, Walter Hamada, the current CEO, I believe, of either Warner, I think the entirety of Warner, he's talking about his upcoming projects, and he did an interview, and he was saying that the Snyder Cut is a storytelling cul-de-sac, referring to the fact that we're just going around the block. We're not going to advance the story from here. So I don't think that's going to A, be part of anything, or B, lead to anything. I think it's just because they shot most of it already. They're like, oh, it's relatively cheap to turn this into a miniseries so that we can throw it on HBO Max and get more subscribers, which is, we'll get into that in a second, with another talking point at another point. But I think that the Snyder Cut is simply to bolster that service, and that's why they saw that as an opportunity. Otherwise, I don't think it would exist, nor be canon even if it did.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have issue with like because the visuals of a lot of the like action type of things they're questionable. I would like chuckle to myself every time she ran at full speed.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's the scene where it's the car chase. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
There was that, but there was also, I remember her being in, they're in DC, I'm pretty sure, being in DC in like her Wonder Woman gear running towards the end of the movie.
Oh, you mean when she recants the wish to bring Steve back?
Yeah, I think it's right after that where she recants the wish and then she can run fast again. And like just the visual of it, I don't know, there was something something off about it.
See, I thought that shot was not very good, but it was so much better than the freaking Egypt car chase, where like she's running on par with like the speed of like a moving vehicle, and it reminded me of the scene in Captain America: Civil War,
right,
where Black Panther and Captain America are running the same speed as cars because they're superhumans, I guess, and they're like matching 35, 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. And if you look at the behind the scenes and how that was done, the actors used basically like flat treadmills, they like at airports where it kind of moves you forward,
right,
and they ran at like top human speed and also sped that up in real life, so when they filmed it, it looked like a human was just like bolting faster than anyone could.
That's super interesting,
right? This one, put Gal Gadot in front of a green screen, whatever, so it doesn't feel like the same kind of like effort or passion into the visuals as other movies.
But you could also tell that, like, if you looked at the road, you could tell that they were only going, like, a max of 20 miles per hour. Like, they were not going fast whatsoever.
Oh, my God. There's, like, certain YouTube internet videos with visual effects in them that have more time and effort and passion into how they're executed than, like, this major motion picture blockbuster meant for the world. So,
kind of makes me think of, like, was it rushed, like, at all?
What's weird to me is that it was supposed to come out in 2019, delayed to, I think, this summer of 2020, and then delayed because of Corona. But because of Corona, you had, 5-6 extra months to work on it? So if you know that sequence looks kind of shitty, why wouldn't you go back and, like, the VFX artists can work from home. They have nice enough computers, maybe, so,
Right, yeah, and again, this doesn't excuse any of the problems. This is just, again, how my brain worked watching it. But part of me also kind of excused that, where I was like, oh, the effects in like an 80s movie wouldn't look this good. And I was like,
fair.
And I was like, again, that excuses it by no means. This movie came out in 2020. It should have higher standards, but it was just for some reason how my brain was working while I was watching it, where like there was like things like that and like visuals I kind of forgave. I wasn't too hard on it when I was watching it.
Fair enough. I mean, I'll give you that. I mean, it's just weird to me that this movie would, knowing what the first one did as far as, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but the ending fight versus Ares felt, kind of tonally out of place given the story and the narrative. I mean, Chris Pine was just telling her, like, hey, maybe people aren't all that bad, maybe like this is just how they are. Like what an interesting message that would be if that was actually the end of the movie and you already had the big fight versus Ludendorff, and then you throw in this like mega Zack Snyder crazy fuck fest and it's like, oh my God,
big gray clouds.
So yeah, everything's gray and metallic like Transformers. But it's weird to me that they know that. And Patty Jenkins has come out and said in interviews that, hey, that ending sequence was rushed and, I take full responsibility. It's weird that knowing that, going into this movie, that you would kind of, I don't want to say double down on the stupid, but I am. Triple down on the stupid as far as that sequence is going.
Right. I didn't think it was as bad because there wasn't necessarily like, I mean, there was lightning. There was dark clouds and lightning in the end fight sequence. But, like, it wasn't necessarily like they're surrounded by clouds and lightning and stuff like that. There was a little bit more, like, visual depth to it, but it was still kind of just dark, grim. It did still have a little bit of that, Zack Snyder-y type of end battle.
Yeah, no, I totally feel you on that.
Oh, speaking about the end battle, the Panther fight. That CG looks straight out of like 2003. That looks like, I don't know if you guys have like seen previews or even like seen the show, but the CW Supergirl show like has pretty much on par CG as that Panther fight. Panther or Cheetah? I think is it Cheetah?
Yeah, it's Cheetah.
Okay, it has like pretty much on par CG with that Cheetah fight.
I don't know. I think I disagree with that because I think the Cheetah something did feel a little off, like Cats style. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, I think that when you, as someone who has watched a lot of the Arrowverse shows like Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, no, there's a definitive budget difference between those shows and like the movies. Like there's a lot going on.
Well,
like
obviously
Martian
there's a budget
Manhunter is like a
difference.
CG head in Supergirl, and it's really jarring. Like, why wouldn't you just put a guy in makeup? You don't have to do a full CG head with a TV show budget. But I don't know.
I mean, like, yeah, obviously there's a difference in budget, but I guess it's really how you spend that budget, and I don't think they. It could have been baked a little more. It looks like a prototype of like the final visuals.
I agree. You know what? As someone who did like the movie, maybe the best of the three of us, I would probably say that they could have spent another few months to work on it, like as far as like a final product.
Yeah, I think that's just an issue with at least the recent DC movies. I had a very similar issue with Aquaman. I wasn't impressed by the visuals of Aquaman all that much.
I disagree so hard. No, I loved Aquaman's visuals. It's probably one of the best visual movies in the DCEU, besides like maybe Batman or Superman, as far as some of those shot compositions.
Okay. Oh well, I meant more so like the visual effects.
I like those too.
Okay.
Well, we can talk about like we could talk about Wonder Woman all day and like how we feel, but speaking of like visual effects, to get into the next movie that came out on Christmas.
Yes.
Soul. I'll say it. I think there's a recency bias, obviously, with like anything you watch, but I do think this is probably gonna like crack my maybe even like top 3 Pixar movies.
Wow.
This is one of my. I can already say it now. Like, this is one of my favorite Pixar movies. It's just. First of all, okay, I transitioned with visuals, so I think we should get into that. This movie is beautiful.
God. Like
this movie. Oh my
there
god!
Was,
like the
keep going.
Yeah, no, you go.
There was a moment where I forgot it was animated. Like there was an actual part where it's the first time I think we see. I forget, is his name Terry? Is that the short like
the mouse kind of like god thing?
Yeah. So the first time where he's in like the quote unquote real world and he's like on like the sidewalk walking down or whatever, like slinking down the road. Part of me was like, oh, it's like Looney Tunes back in action, or that's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and then I was like, wait, the real world's animated too. I was like, oh my god, it was. Yeah. This is by far the most beautiful, like in terms of visuals, Pixar movie, hands down. Like especially when you compare, like you go back to like Toy Story 1 and you see how far they've come from like that kind of animation to this.
I have seen Toy Story 1 online a lot be kind of like criticized as like this doesn't hold up at all. You know what I mean?
I think it holds up because it's the time. You gotta also kind of
no, the visuals specifically, just the visuals. Like the story is obviously beautiful.
Right.
I still think the visuals for Toy Story. I still think the visuals hold up, and they were very smart to pick toys to be like the main character.
That is
because everything back then for CG just looks so plasticky.
Then with Bugs and stuff too for Bugs Life, they didn't really go do much human.
I think Bugs Life works worse than Toy Story because they were trying to do like realistic environments.
Right.
You know what looks worse than Toy Story and Bugs? Ants.
That's true. But
with the Z at the end. Remember that movie? Dude, I love that movie. God. I do, but the visuals do not hold up.
No early DreamWorks. Actually, I think Ants is like their first CG.
Yeah,
DreamWorks
everything
movie.
pre-Shrek I think was just not visually beautiful.
Right. Like, and even then, like, there's a huge difference in quality between like Shrek and Shrek 2.
You're like, so right.
There's like it's like animation style. Like it really like the shininess of like some objects in early CG movies like lets you know right off the bat that this is like really early CG.
So back to Soul, actually. You were mentioning how beautiful it was. I thought the character design of like the immortal entities or whatever they're called, how simplistic and minimalistic they were really stood out to me, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. But I really appreciated, like, for example, when they're standing there and their hand or arm rather crosses over themselves relative to where we're looking at them, it's invisible because they're made of negative space and they would cross out themselves. Like, it's little teeny details like that. it's actually using like technically less animation processing power and all that shit to like make a creature on screen. You're using so much less than you would for pretty much every other character in the movie. Like all the human characters are intricately detailed with their hair and your face and a little bit of lighting and that's cast on the skin and stuff like that. But with these characters, you're doing so much less and they stand out so much more. And that's really cool that they struck that balance.
Yeah, and like this movie has like a lot of less is more. Like the escalator scenes are just really, it's just like black, white, and blue are like the main three colors there, and the white is just like sparks and lines. But it looks so good. There's just something about it. There's so Pixar like has like this like dark magic to make movies just look so amazing. Like I don't like Toy Story 4 because I think 3 was like a perfect send off note.
I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it.
Okay, I won't. But like the visuals of Toy Story 4 are just like so amazing too. The same like realistic world style, but the characters themselves have like a cartoony aspect. I do kind of wish that the world itself was kind of more cartoony, but I understand that they were going that the style they were going for. I understand they were going for realism first, and then they were bringing like the other world kind of style into what I don't know, purgatory or the middle, whatever they end up I don't remember what they call it in the movie. But
right.
And
it was like the Great Before, I think.
Yeah. Right. Because she like said, "Oh, is this hell?" And then
I love the animation style and how like the Great Before is really cheery and happy, and the Great Beyond is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like I love the sharp contrast, and then like there's like little visual jokes where like, well, we gotta bring you back now, and they open a portal to the Great like Beyond, like with the white light, and it's this like they play ominous like chanting music, like monks are chanting like, "Oh, this is evil," and they show the image of just like nothingness, and everyone's heading toward it, and that like. It's so funny when contrasted with like this like wonderful paradise world of the Great Before you become a body. That's so fucking funny to me.
And you know, we can gush about the visuals all day, but the movie itself I think has like a really, really solid story. There's not I really don't have any kind of complaints whatsoever. Maybe like why can 22 and Joe like hear each other when they're in the human world? Like, because Joe is still a cat. It doesn't matter that your soul's in a cat. You know, if everybody else sounds like a cat, like you sound like a cat to everybody else, then why don't you sound like a cat to this human just because there's a different soul in it?
Wow, you make an excellent point. I never thought about that.
That's like, but you know, that can be like explained because like maybe her 22 soul isn't like a real soul yet, a human soul yet, so she can understand those kind of things. I don't know, but like that's really like my only problem when it comes to story wise like of this movie. Unless
you know, it's kind of funny. I didn't have this problem that I'm about to mention. Mud did when we did our soul review, but he mentioned that once they go into the human world, then it becomes significantly less good because it becomes the classic like, oh, Pixar, haha, he's a cat, she doesn't know what to do, haha, jokey joke. You know, it become like the classic kind of, you know, Pixar trope of like they go on an adventure and have goofy, wild things together. But I don't even know if I would agree with that because it still fit the movie. Like it's still like everything that happens on Earth either furthers characters or furthers the plot or both. Like, oh my God, the scene with his mom where they have that heart to heart via a cat. Oh my God.
So powerful.
Like like you were saying, Jason, it feels live action. Like you feel like this is just a drama scene from like the latest Scorsese movie or whatever the fuck's going on. Like it's so good.
Yeah. Oh my God. And like and the music too. Like the acting is really, really good in this movie. Jamie Foxx does an amazing job.
You forget it's Jamie Foxx.
Fey, huh?
So you forget it's Jamie Foxx doing it.
Yeah, this just feels like a real person again. Like with like the whole live action thing, it feels so real.
It's funny that it feels like such great acting when you can only hear them and not see the actors performing. That's so cool to me that like you melt away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the music performances too are just. I am a big fan of jazz. I don't know about you guys, but I love myself some jazz, and this movie is just like music to my ears because it is music, but it's just so good. I I don't. I don't have a lot of complaints about this movie, which is why it's kind of hard to review it because it's hard to review something that's like so good because there's not a lot that you think could be done better.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's why I'm more interested in like what you guys have to say about it.
Well, it's kind of weird because I don't have kind of any criticism. I gave it a 9 out of 10 when I watched it. I reserved 10 out of 10s for like pure bona fide masterpieces. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
movies that are just like on par with like another level of perfect. But Soul, even though I don't really have any like major gripes or criticisms with it, I give it a 9. I think it's spectacular. It was like an 11th hour movie that made my top 10 of the year. It made I think it's like top 5 even. It's like so good.
Yeah, I think one of you I don't remember who. I think one of you had it at number 2 because I did watch like the top 10
That
movies
was
of the year
Ian.
video. That was
That
Ian?
almost made his number 1 of the year immediately. I think he still has Trial of Chicago 7 from Netflix on number 1, which is a perfect choice. I mean, damn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he almost cried. I think like 2 or 3 separate times. He told me so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we were bullying him, and then also by watching the movie after.
Jason, do you have anything else to say about Soul?
Okay, so you know what I said about Wonder Woman, where
Yeah.
I had very low expectations, and I went in, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. I had the opposite reaction with Soul. I've heard reviews about it. People were raving over it. I've heard people say, they cried at the end of it and stuff, like they were bawling. And I'm all about crying during movies, like Coco, bawled my eyes out, watching Coco. So I was ready for an experience. And I watched it, and I'll admit, I was a little tired also when I started to watch it. There were certain parts where I was like, stay awake. But I didn't stay awake for the whole thing. I didn't doze off or anything. I thought it was good. I thought it was solid. But I wasn't like over the moon about it. It does not break my top 5 Pixar, movies. I didn't cry.
Oh, no.
I didn't get emotional at all during it.
I'm sorry. I don't have a top 5 Pixar. It was a top 5 of the year.
Oh, no. Well, I also said.
I don't know if that's you referencing. I'm sorry.
No, I said.
Yeah, Joaquin.
Yeah, it's like top
right,
3
okay.
Pixar movies for me.
Sorry, go on.
But it wouldn't break my top 5 Pixar movies. It might I may on a technicality break my top of the year just because honestly this year I haven't really seen many like movies that came out this year, as most people haven't seen many movies that came out this year.
Honestly, I have seen a lot of movies that came out this year. You're not missing much, dude. It's just mids.
Right. But no, I was just generally, I guess, unenthused makes it sound like I disliked it. I didn't dislike it. I had a good time with it. The ending, I didn't get emotional at the ending. I thought, wow, that leaves you off on a really solid like note. That's a really nice way to end it. But like, I was just like, it's okay. It's a good time. It's a nice watch. But I by no means was moved by this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's partly because of how high the bar was perhaps set online before going into it.
You need to go into movies blind. And you know what?
I typically do, but
I did go into Soul blind, and I went into Wonder Woman blind. I didn't think I was going to like Wonder Woman just because I don't really care for DC movies, which is why I didn't watch the first one. But, for Soul, I actually wanted to get into it. Did either of you see like any sort of advertising for
I saw
frankly
a trailer,
either of these movies?
Like I saw like the first trailer that came out, Like the first
If I
teaser trailer.
did, I don't remember it. So
Yeah,
it didn't really have an impact on me.
Yeah, I watched
The
it a
only
really long time
commercial,
ago.
the only commercial I saw for either one of them, before I watched them, was the Happy Meal commercial for Soul. Like, these movies, I think they kind of want them to fail, you know. So are we ready to get into our next point?
What point ever would you be talking about, Mr. 12-star?
Well, as I wrote it down here, the film industry kind of coming up, and I think because I didn't see any advertising for pretty much either of these movies, and I have been starting to watch TV more and more.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say that they maybe kind of want these movies to fail.
When you say they, do you mean? Wait,
I mean the film companies want these movies to fail.
so like for like Warner for Wonder Woman, and Pixar
Right.
for Soul,
Well, Disney
or Disney
for,
as a whole for Soul. Okay.
Let me clarify. What do you mean by fail?
I don't think they want these movies to be successful. I think they would rather prefer.
Do you
like,
mean numbers,
staying-
or do you mean?
Right, because you can't really count. There is no box office for these. Actually, I think. Did Wonder Woman get a theater release
Yeah,
at
it
the
was
same
released
time?
in theaters at the same time.
I don't think Soul was it?
I don't believe so.
No, it was
So-
not. It was exclusive to Disney Plus.
Yeah, so you really can't count the box office for these movies. But what I mean by wanting them to fail, I think they kind of like are just waiting for the pandemic to be over, and then like they're gonna go full force into theaters again, which I don't know if that's gonna work out for them, because I think let's just get into
Well,
it.
you
I
know
think
about the HBO deal, right?
right, they're gonna have all Warner Brother movies in 2021 release on HBO Max and in theaters at the same time.
Mhm.
But I think that's just
Yeah.
because they like spent too much money on those films to, kind of like just let them like sit for a while. They need to like make some sort of money back through subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No,
So-
they're in a screwy spot right now.
That's why I think they kind of want like streaming to fail, at least when it comes to like big budget movies like this. And I don't, obviously you guys don't have to agree with me, but like biggest case in point, for when Mulan came out on Disney Plus, they like charged $15 to like watch the movie, even if
Yes.
you already like paid for Disney Plus.
Mhm.
I believe it was 30.
It was 30.
It was up
It was
there.
closer to
really
30.
Expensive.
It was a high number.
I think because the current strategy they're doing now, the one that they did for Wonder Woman and Soul, I don't think is sustainable, because you could just sign up for a free trial to those services and
Nope.
watch that movie.
No, HBO Max got rid of their free trial when they announced the Wonder Woman thing. Actually, when they
Oh.
announced the 2021 slate thing, the
Mhm.
day they did that, they were like, yeah, you can't sign up for free anymore.
Oh,
So they're going full
I
force
did
into
not
this, like
know
a
that.
train. Yeah, like a train barreling toward a mounting. They're just like, there's no stopping them. They're
Mhm.
going to explode.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that kind of gets what like one of the things I was saying then. But for at least for Disney Plus, it seems like they're gonna either just throw movies on there, or do the Mulan thing where they're gonna charge people. But I don't think even Mulan. First of all, Mulan was terrible from what I've
Yes,
heard.
it was. No, I've seen
Uh,
it. It's not good.
Right. And I don't think people watched it, especially because there was a lot of controversy going on around
Yeah,
it
with
at the
Chinese
time. So I don't
government and
think
shit.
right. I don't think anybody like watched Mulan. So I think Disney like made a complete loss on that movie. And I don't think Soul's going to make a lot of money for them. Like I don't think it's bringing in any subscribers. If
it
anybody
brought in
wants
I
some.
believe it has. I could be wrong. I forget which one. One of them did do very well in bringing in subscribers. One of them didn't. I can't remember which one it was.
when it's bringing in subscribers, does it count does Disney Plus still have the free trial? I
Oh,
should
I have
ask.
no idea.
I believe so. The thing about Disney Plus is that it's not going to stay. I should say it's not going to stay $7 a month as time goes on. Like because right now it's so cheap. I think they said that their investor meeting they're going to up it to $8 a month pretty soon, which is I
Right.
guess fine. But you bet your ass it's going to be like 15, 16, maybe even $20 in a few years.
Most streaming services are going that route. It's getting to the point where streaming is no longer going to be cheaper than a cable.
Yep.
No,
But
I
at
think
the
it's
same
already
time,
at that point.
well, it depends how many you have. I mean,
That is
because
also
I
true.
personally, I kind of cheap out. So I have Hulu for free because when I got my Sprint phone at that very specific time, they had a
Ooh.
deal where you get free Hulu if you just stay a Sprint member. So I've never
Mhm.
been anything other than a Sprint member just for Hulu.
Uh-huh.
I hate Sprint as a company, but that's a different issue. So I have free Hulu. My mom has Disney Plus and Netflix, so we just have logins on those.
Mhm.
Amazon, I have Amazon because I need Amazon, the company. I mean, I don't go to shop anymore. Why would I ever do that?
Right.
So I just get Prime for free, basically, because I pay for the full service. Yeah, I have access to a lot of these things that, like, I don't even think, like I would much rather it be this way instead of me paying, say, 50, 60, 70 bucks a month for a cable package
yeah.
when I may not even be home at that specific time to watch that show. I'm not going to
Right.
set it to TiVo, whatever the fuck show I'm going to miss. Like, no, I'd rather
Yeah.
just search the episode and watch it when I want or
Even
pause it partway through.
even if it gets to that point where it's more expensive, I don't think I'm ever gonna purchase cable for myself.
Hell no. Hell no. I never would for any reason.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't have cable, I have YouTube TV, and the only reason why I have that is because I wanted faster internet here. So I made like a deal. I pay for cable. My grandmother, who I live with currently, she pays for internet. So we're like kind of paying like equally, and we're spending like I think $100 less total than what we would have been on cable.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
all
not
right,
bad.
well, yeah, let me ask you guys this then. Where do you think theaters are headed after this pandemic?
It's up in the air, really. It's
AMC already declared bankruptcy, and I think they're doing the bankruptcy where they're like restructuring to like try to like settle any debts. They're not closing. I don't think it's Chapter 11
Yeah.
bankruptcy.
Well, I explained
But-
to you on a past episode, right, about how AMC they put like a shit ton of money in revamping everything for them,
Yeah, you did.
and
I
then
remember
right when
that.
they were on the cusp of starting to make their money back, that's when the pandemic hit.
Mhm.
Yep. So let's talk about how movie theaters make their money. And you guys probably know a lot about this because you guys are connected and plugged into the industry like I am as well, I'm sure. But this is more for like the listeners out there who maybe aren't the most knowledgeable about the business angle of movie theaters because it's not like the most popular subject in the world. When you spend, say, $15 on a movie ticket, most of that money goes back to the movie studio because it makes sense because it's their movie.
Mhm.
The projectors these movies are played on are the size of 2 Harley-Davidson motorcycles tied together. I've been in those rooms when like they're showing a movie. They're bigger than my TV and it's like 75 inches corner to corner. And it takes an absurd amount of power to run one of these things. And a lot of care to operate correctly, and most movie theaters have about a dozen of these things running nonstop for 2 hours at a time, plus trailers and ads until closing time. So my point with all this is that the cost of overhead to run a movie theater for just, let's say, 1 hour, to hire all of the staff, to keep the lights on, to make all the food, and so on and so forth, is a massive number. I'm just focusing on hourly expenditures, not like monthly leases or yearly contractual obligations or other weird legal crap. Just hourly, it costs a fucking fortune. So that income doesn't really come from movie tickets. Obviously, it's a portion of that, and that's important as well. But where they really make their money is the concessions. That's the entire reasoning behind you not being allowed to bring in outside food and why one large bucket of popcorn costs like $10. It costs pocket change to make. COVID has done 2 things, obliterating the movie theaters. And these critical things are why I don't think we're going to see movies again as popular as they were, maybe ever. So, ignoring people feeling nervous about going to see a movie, let's just assume that every single human being in the world wanted to see Wonder Woman in that week.
Mm-hmm.
In just about every state, theaters now have capacity limits. Last I checked, it was like 30%. It might be lower at the time of recording or when this uploads. But you know how Avengers Endgame made like $2 billion, 2.7? Good luck having a movie make a fraction of that anymore ever again, maybe, if theaters don't survive.
Yeah.
But the other aspect to consider, and I experienced this firsthand, depending on the state and depending on the current phase of that state, movie theaters can't serve food anymore. Everything I was saying about how that is their primary source of revenue, guess what? That ship has more than sailed. Restaurants aren't even allowed to have patrons dine in, only takeout or drive-through in a lot of places. So their primary and secondary sources of revenue, movie theaters, are either removed completely or reduced drastically enough where it's a drop in the bucket.
Mhm.
So, yeah, every fucking day the pandemic goes on is cancer to movie theaters.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very dubious about them coming back.
Because every day it's to the movie industry in general, because then you have the question of, well, who's going to buy who out to save them?
Mm-hmm.
The movie
I don't
studios
know.
are losing money each day without being able to put them in the theaters. And the theaters are
Mm-hmm.
losing money each day without having movies to show. And like you said, with the food and stuff. So both of them are losing money. And one of them can't buy the other out and save them.
Right.
So it's the question
And the
of
problem
who does
too,
that.
right? Like one of the problems too is that whoever, let's say that like, I don't know, Google, one of the richest companies in the world. Let's say that Google bought the movie theaters. That's not going to happen, but let's just say they would have to funnel money into AMC, just burning it to keep them afloat for the foreseeable future, like months,
long
maybe
enough.
years from now, depending on how long all of this still goes. Like they're
Right.
just going to have to just literally, like Weekend at Bernie's, prop their corpse up and be like, "Hey, I'm still alive." Like they have no income at all. They barely have income right now. So we don't know when that's going to end. So whatever company were to buy AMC out would have to be a company that is interested in losing a lot of money really fast.
Yeah.
And maybe never being able to make that money back.
Yeah, maybe never being able to make that back. Because
it just
you can look at
doesn't-
like 2019's numbers and say that, oh, that's like an $11 billion year, which is just insane to think about as far as the
Yeah,
box
but-
office goes. But
You also had like the biggest blockbuster of probably our generation
Right.
in that year. that's not an everyday thing, you know.
yeah, you had an
No-
Avengers movie, you had a Star Wars movie, you had like a few other like high name titles.
Right.
And that's just not going to happen again for a long time because they wouldn't release those in theaters unless they know the landscape is popular enough. So if the landscape is at 30% without being able to serve food and same time streaming at HBO Max where people don't want to go to the theaters, then why on earth would, I don't know, Eon release No Time to Die when they have a lot riding on that movie? They need like
Right.
hundreds of millions of dollars in return to get like any kind of financial profit out of that. When Tenet made $350 million, which is, you know, post-COVID pretty good, but pre-pandemic is just abysmal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I think it's gonna have like a little bit of a snowball effect. Without the theaters, you kind of had to rely on streaming, and I don't think streaming for these big budget movies is gonna be like it's not gonna make your money back. So I think budgets for movies are going to like slowly dwindle in the like upcoming future, which, you know, maybe may be considered a good thing, you know, to not blow a bunch of money on like movies that really don't deserve that much money on a budget. But I think it's gonna like affect like the big studios the most, you know, because they're not gonna be able to pour the billions of dollars they need to in order to make a movie successful. Like,
I was talking to my friend about this the other day, but like, imagine if COVID had hit like maybe a year earlier and Endgame got hit
Yeah.
and didn't come out. Marvel would be so fucked. Do you know what I mean? Like, like Infinity War made $2 billion. Next year, box office is destroyed, and there's no way to release Endgame, and they're not going to put it on a streaming because they wouldn't make their billions of dollars. They'd just be in the hole, maybe $1 billion in the hole, which is like, wow, that would have been disastrous for them. So
Right.
that
And
kind of is happening on smaller scales to everyone else.
And I think a lot of movies too kind of need that like theater push to really get them going.
Yes,
That makes
you're
sense.
so
like,
right.
You kind of need that experience for a lot of movies, and you're not gonna get. I'm sure if I saw like Wonder Woman 84 with friends, I would have maybe enjoyed it more just because I was with friends watching it.
Yes.
You're not gonna get that again.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna get like the whole theater cheering, especially
I
because
know.
now, like you said, they're at 30% capacity. No one's cheering at the same level.
Or even like a smaller
She-
level, like comedies, you know? Like,
Right.
watching a comedy alone in your bedroom is much different than watching a comedy in like a packed theater.
You're so right. You're so right about that. And it's not even like comedy might be the biggest example because everyone laughs together if it's a funny movie, granted. But like horror, everyone jumps together.
Yeah.
Action, everyone's like, oh, fuck yeah, together. Like it's all this kind of, you don't get that anymore. And one of the things I'm really grateful for, the fact that we do our Dealer's Choice show, is that I still get to watch movies with my friends. And when the pandemic hit, I bought like this fucking $1,000 hunker of a TV in my room just so I could feel like I'm still in a theater while the theaters are gone.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I'm sure there's people that would prefer to just watch stuff at their home. Like they don't really care that much about the movie theater experience. But I'm someone that I that's a very important thing. Like like I said earlier, I haven't watched like barely anything this year, and that's because of the fact that the movie theaters are closed down. I think I looked at my notes in my phone. In 2018, I think I saw 50 plus movies in the theater, and the theater experience is so important that if we weren't doing this episode, I probably wouldn't have watched Soul or Wonder Woman. Like at least unless like later on I just got bored and I was like, all right, let me put this on. But I honestly probably wouldn't have watched them if it wasn't for this episode. So the fact that there's no theaters, there isn't that experience. It really kind of takes away, I don't know, any interest that I have in watching a lot of things. Of course, I do still watch stuff, but not necessarily like everything that's coming out this year or next year or anything like that. Like I have to really be interested, like have a hard interest in something to kind of watch it at home. Because there's so many other options of stuff to watch when you're at home, you know. Well,
yeah.
when
For me, it's more technical. I really the sitting in a theater with that surround sound system and those like 18 subwoofers to your back and this screen that's like the size of a building wall, because it basically is just the entire wall of the building all the way up with a projector on it. Like seeing those crisp like contrast of the colors is like, I don't know, Wonder Woman is like the size of fucking a mountain in front of you, but you get sucked in because your entire field of view is there, and the surround sound is obviously like engorging you with just all kinds of crazy sound waves of the action. And if it's like a Nolan movie or something like that, the sound mixing is like weird and crazy and hitting you from all angles, and it's immersive in every way. And it's beautiful to sit there and experience. And I love doing that with people too. But my primary concern is probably the technical aspects. And over the course of my life, I know until like I grow old and die, I'm probably going to slowly convert this room I have of this movie room as close as possible to an actual movie theater. I kind of want one of those OLED TVs where the black pixels actually turn off. Oh my God, those look so good. Like I've seen them in stores on displays, and like it sucks because I spent a lot of money on this TV and I have to spend like twice as much, and it's like, no, I don't want to do that. But like I do, but I'm not going to. But I should, but I'm not going to. It's tough. So as time goes on, that's where I'm headed, as turning a movie room or a basement, maybe if I have a house, into like just a theater, because I want that experience back, even if the theaters die, which I'm in the camp that they're gonna die. That's my personal opinion. Well, they're not gonna die. I should clarify. They're not gonna be
the same,
popular.
Though. Yeah, they're
not gonna be the same. Right. It's gonna be like a little indie mom and pop theaters, or like a Disney theater. Like there's a Disney theater in like Disney World or Land or whatever. There's like they have their own theater that they play their own movies in. There's gonna be some of those. Some like I think Amazon is gonna buy some theaters and play some movies in theaters, but like it's just gonna be, it's gonna be rinky-dink little things. It's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, almost like how there's like scarcely like drive-in theaters. You can find them. They're very tough to find though. I am praying that doesn't happen. Although it does not look bright for the future of movie theaters. Did you guys see? I saw this today, and I forget what specific chain did it, but kind of talking about the HBO stuff. There's a theater chain that's they're gonna all the Warner Brothers movies that are playing in theaters concurrently to the HBO run. They're gonna only charge, I think it's like $3 to watch them.
Oh, really?
In like spite of the HBO deal, because kind of what you said, most of the money comes from the concessions, not from the ticket. And so they're gonna just offer a ticket for the in-theater experience dirt cheap. To kind of counteract the HBO deal that's going on.
Right.
Yeah,
kinda
it's really
like
funny.
Kind of like how airlines were like offering tickets really cheap because they were struggling for a little bit. I don't know if they're obviously still struggling, but I don't know if they're struggling as much.
Yeah, it fluctuates based on the
It's kind of funny actually because
Well,
movie theaters, pre-pandemic, like before everything happened, uh, there were events that just started to happen, like late 2019, I think, where you can watch certain sporting events. Like they wanted to do the Super Bowl in the February of that year,
Mm-hmm.
and it will be like, I think it was almost free or like a very cheap price, but you had to buy something at the bar. Like you had to buy a drink or something, and you
mhm.
could just show up and go in the theater and watch like the Super Bowl or whatever the fuck's going on. That's a really cool idea because I know so many people, myself included, that would probably go and buy like, I don't know, $10, $15 of really bad for you food at like their little hot dog stand and sit and watch the Super Bowl with some friends. I would totally do that.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well,
That was a great business idea that I don't think they can really implement as much anymore.
well, speaking of food, guys, I think it's time we get into that Peabody potato fact of the day.
Oh, how did I forget that? Yeah, Miss Peabody, you want to hit us with it?
Potatoes have more potassium than a banana, more vitamin C than an orange, and more fiber than an apple. Despite all this, potatoes only have 100 calories.
Thank you, Miss Peabody.
Bravo, Mrs. Peabody.
Beautifully done.
Great
Yeah!
fact. Oh, really
Miss
enlightening.
Peabody.
Oh, but yeah, as you guys were saying, yeah, I think pretty much theaters aren't going to. They're not going to be dead. They're not going to have as big of a presence as they did, and I already think that the theater industry was kind of dying out already. Like you would get big blockbusters. You get like maybe one or two big blockbusters a year, but like compared to years past where you have like a lot of movies coming out and a lot of them would be like worth seeing.
Yeah, well,
I don't think we're ever gonna get that again.
You could see the movie theaters starting to kind of reshape their business models in order to kind of fight against that kind of lack of interest in theaters. AMC, for example, and Regal, they had their subscription memberships where you only have to pay a certain amount a month and you get to see a certain amount of movies a week and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And also just like renovating the theater, trying to make putting in the recliners, trying to get everything to get people to come back to watching movies. And yeah, this is it just happened at probably the worst time possible for them.
Right.
You know, it's funny. Back to Joaquin's point about them dying. I don't know if that's true. I just thought it was changing. Like pre-COVID, I have to keep using terms like pre and post-COVID because those are two separate eras of movie theaters existing. But pre-COVID, I had a feeling that as the years went on, aside from pandemic, as the regular years went on, that the theaters would just be an avenue for very high budget blockbusters. And everything that has a budget of less than like 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, everything that wasn't a major blockbuster in budget terms and box office terms, I think would just go to streaming. And I think there would only be really cheap like television event stuff, not cheap, but like cheaper than $200 million television event stuff. And then major blockbusters, like every studio pumps out their end games. So every studio would want to be in like the next studio that makes a Fast and Furious or a Star Wars or an Endgame every year. Those would be the only movies in theaters, would be big budget blockbusters. Post-COVID, here we are. So now the opposite is happening, where every studio just wants to make cheap television instead, or miniseries, or things that don't cost all kinds of money because they don't have that box office revenue anymore, and they may never again.
Yeah. It's very grim, and again, part of me hopes that somehow some like idea that nobody's thinking about somebody's gonna implement something out of left field, and it's gonna be saved post COVID, but it just does not look bright for them.
I don't know. You're definitely gonna see like, I compare it to things like CDs. Like every time an artist makes a new song or album, I should say, they release their CDs, and CDs are physically distributed to Walmarts, but that's not how their songs are primarily consumed or released anymore. It's all digital. So yes, there will be movie theaters, like there are still vinyl records, but they're going to be as common and or as popular as vinyl records are today. So that's kind of, it's a depressing fact, but at the very least they'll be around. I don't think they're going to go away forever. I really don't. They're going to be around here, but they're not going to be the event. There's never going to, I hesitate to say never. We're in such a weird place. I don't think there will be something like an Endgame again.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I keep bringing up that example because
no,
that's
it's a perfect
the
example.
latest.
That's a
it's the biggest thing.
When we talked about it on, it must have been. Well, was it when Endgame came out when we talked to Courtney, or was that Infinity
That
War?
was yeah, we watched it. We
I just didn't know if it
did
was Infinity War or
episode-
Endgame. That's all I was.
It was Endgame.
Okay, because when we were talking to him, we were like, the numbers that they broke, and this is at the time. I was like, the numbers that they broke, it will eventually get broken, but just very, very far down the line. Eventually, it will happen. Now, yeah, I don't know if that will. I don't think that will
No.
happen.
Yeah.
I think there's always the possibility that it sort of, when it comes back, it's really diminished from what it was. And over a long, long period of time, perhaps there's a regrowing phase where perhaps at some point very far down the future, we get to a point where things have kind of returned back to normal. This is a hypothetical. It might not. That might not be the path of it. But I think there's a possibility. The pathway, I think, is there for them to kind of possibly over a long period of time regrow. But yeah, in the anywhere near future, no, it will never. It won't happen again. It will not.
I think by the time, like, let's say the pandemic is like over in a year, which I'm just throwing a number out my ass right now. I don't know that based on anything, but let's just say that like 1 year from now the pandemic goes away. There's so much damage that's been done. It would probably take like a decade for theaters to become to the point where they would be even entertaining the idea of making billions of dollars at the box office again via each movie. Like that's why I keep saying like each day that passes keeps doing this massive amount of damage to the entire industry because like it just gets worse and worse and it becomes more systemic. So it's just terrible.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're kind of like doing it to themselves a little bit because they're trying to open up as soon as possible because they're losing so much money. But the sooner you open up, the more cases of COVID you're going to bring, and then you're just going to have to close back down again, which is probably going to end up costing you more money in the long run.
You know what's great, oddly enough, is that of all the fucking COVID cases, not one has been tied to a movie theater. I'm so happy about that. Because, you know, like the
Really?
moment that one happens, people are going to say, see, everything should close all the movie theaters forever. Ugh. Like, I'm so glad that of all the places, all the businesses like restaurants and everything that have had outbreaks at some point, I'm really glad that the theaters, when opening, have done crazy amounts of cleaning policies. And I worked there in 2016, and I'm familiar with their pre-COVID policies. They clean pretty well. We clean out those theaters every time people come out, and you know, when I go to a showing of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and that soundtrack burns in my head just that 10th more time, I clean those seats pretty damn well. I get paid to, you know. So I'm really glad that when they opened up, they did what they did so strongly in full force.
Yeah.
I don't know, because why are they opening now? There's no point. Even if people were to come to theaters and even if you weren't at 30% capacity, no studio wants to give you their movie right now.
Exactly.
So you have nothing to show.
Yeah. They tried going into the catalog and playing like classics and stuff like that, but you can only do that for so long, you know?
I know. I think the highest grossing re-release ever was like The Lion King, but it didn't even make like if any movie today released and made Lion King's re-release numbers, it'd be like a bomb. Like there's re-releases don't make significant money. They never do. So Wonder Woman being on streaming at the same time, I mean, hell, I love the movie theaters just as much as the next guy, but I watched it on streaming. Why? Because A, safety. B, it's a hell of a lot fucking easier to click play on my remote instead of getting up, taking a shower, putting on clothes, getting in my car, driving to a theater, like investing 3 hours of my night to do this, getting food. Like it's this whole project. If I'm not with friends in like this experience, or like on a date with my girlfriend, for example, I have no reason to myself alone go there and watch a movie when I could just click play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good note to like end off there. Jake, you guys are currently done with your Bondathon, right?
Yeah, the big Bond-thon of every single Bond movie. Yep.
Right. Well, the only reason why I bring that up, Jake, is we have a little thing. We have a little bit of a tradition now. The end of the show game show.
The Potatocast Challenge Cup.
Yep.
What in the world
And,
is this?
Well, we have a little bit of a game to play with you, Jake.
It's our world.
God.
It's our world famous game.
Yeah. We're calling it this time stocks versus bonds. Now, the premise
Oh,
of the
God.
game is I'm going to name you a person. Now, they're either going to be a Bond actor, and I don't mean like James Bond himself. They're going to be like an actor in a Bond movie,
Okay.
or they're going to be a stockbroker.
A real life stockbroker.
A real-life stockbroker from around the Massachusetts area. So you
Oh
might
my
might
God.
recognize some of these names, just like you'll recognize some of these actors, maybe.
You know what's really funny? I have a game to play with you guys after this, if you will indulge me. But I'm really good at actors. I'm really bad at real people. Like I swear to
Oh.
God, like Joaquin, I got your name like the second or third time we met. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm really bad in real life. Now, luckily, we're well acquainted enough where it's fine. But like, damn.
Right.
I thought you were gonna say I'm really good with actors, really bad with stockbrokers.
Yeah. Oh, League's terrible at stockbrokers, my friend.
Well,
Maybe the worst guy
hey,
at stockbrokers of all time.
Well, don't count yourself out, Jake. Well, here's the thing. If you win, you'll be the first winner in like
I think it's like a year
What?
and a half, something like that. It was 2019.
Yeah, so we I'm kind of banking on like you kind of winning.
Okay, well, hold on. I need to know some criteria here.
Yes.
First of all, what constitutes winning? Do I have to get them all right?
No. Okay. You need to
got-
get the
there's
majority.
10
I
questions.
think, Joaquin, you have 10, correct?
There's
10?
10 questions and a bonus question. at
So
the
you
end.
need at least 6 to win.
6, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm ready.
So, you ready?
Yep.
All right. I did put this through a randomizer, but I did the first one kind of as like a throwaway. So, Jake, is Sean Connery a Bond actor or a stockbroker?
That one's pretty tough, but I'm going to wild hunch guess that he is a Bond actor.
You would be correct. That is James
See, it's
Bond from
easy,
the
this
film
game.
Goldfinger.
Is that a real point? Hell yeah. All right, let's go. I'm pumped.
All
Sorry, I
right.
gave him Rudolph for the reindeer one last Christmas episode.
Right.
Fair enough.
The second question. Edward Jones, is that a Bond actor or a stockbroker?
Ooh. Ooh. You got to play like the Deal or No Deal soundtrack, the doo 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 doo. Like
We're
all
gonna
those
play
intros.
Spanish
There'll be some
Flea.
Spanish Flea in the background.
Oh, good. That sounds chaotic as hell. I love it. Edward Jones. Okay, so going through the entire Bond movies cast in my head that I know, I don't recognize it. But I don't know if I'm willing to bet that it's a broker. You know what? I'm going to go for it because I think Duncan Jones is the son of David Bowie. He's a popular director. I feel like Edward Jones having that last name may even be related to him, and I would have recognized that, and I didn't. So I'm going to go stockbroker.
You would be correct. All
Oh
right,
my
Jake.
god.
Easy,
2 for
easy.
2. 2 for 2. All right. Jake, is this a Bond actor or a stockbroker? Bernard McKierney.
Can I get a spelling on the last name?
Could you use it in a sentence, please?
McEneany.
No. Bernard Lee is M. Rory Kinnear is Bill Tanner. I'm gonna go stockbroker.
You would be correct.
Oh my
That is a
god.
stockbroker from the company McKierney and Co-Investments.
If I knew companies, I would have gotten it that way, but I do not.
All right, Jake. Is this a Bond actor or a stockbroker? Albert Finney.
Oh, that sounds so familiar. I feel like my gut is telling me Bond. I'm gonna go Bond actor.
You would be correct. That is Kincaid from Skyfall.
Really?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
4 for
Damn.
4.
Hot right now. You only need 2. You only need 2 more.
Yeah. Knock on wood. All right. I don't know about keeping it up.
All right. This one should be pretty easy. Smith Barney.
Why is that pretty easy?
Well, you tell me, Jake.
Oh my God, Smith Barney. It's not Barney Smith.
Nope, it's Smith Barney.
First of all, get a first name. Second, I don't recognize it immediately off the top of my head. No, I feel like if there was a first name Smith in the Bond verse, I feel like I would have hit that. But I've gotten
these are the actors, not the characters.
right. That's what I'm going off in my head. It's actually easier that they're actors because I recognize casts, but apparently not. No, it's more like it's tough trying to articulate my thought process here, but I will say that I think Smith Barney is a stockbroker.
You'd be correct.
Oh my God.
5 for 5. Maybe I should try to make this harder.
No, I'm if I don't recognize it, I say stockbroker, so I'm it's not like I have this master plan.
All right. You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Simon Kane, Bond actor or stockbroker?
All right, Simon Kane. I feel like that's a Bond actor. I'm going to say Bond actor immediately without giving it more thought.
You would be correct. That's the helicopter pilot from GoldenEye.
Wow.
Jake, you are a winner.
Holy crap.
Now, I am gonna go through the rest of these questions just to see like how many points you can end up getting.
Okay.
All right. So okay, 6 out of 6 though. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. Jeffrey Keane.
Damn. There's a Jeffrey Wright. He's obviously he is in the Craig era of Bonds. There is it Jeffrey who?
Jeffrey Keane.
Keane.
Keen.
Keen. How do you spell the Jeffrey part? That could matter.
Geoffrey.
I was thinking the other way. So since it's really not clicking with me, I'm gonna go stockbroker.
Ooh, you would be incorrect.
Oh!
That is the Minister of Defense from Octopussy.
That's who? I'm sorry?
The Minister of Defense from Octopussy.
Really? That's weird. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Jake, you're still a winner.
The
So
Russian's
don't
been cut. It's a bad cut. Sorry, go on.
Okay, all right. You ready for the next one?
Yep.
All right. Michael Braun.
That feels Bond. I'm going Bond.
Ooh, incorrect. That's a stockbroker.
All
from
downhill from winning.
That's a stockbroker from Moores and Cabot. All right. Okay. Last question. David Hedison.
How do you spell that? The last name?
Hedison.
Damn. I'm really glad I won early because I feel like I'm just gonna say it's a stockbroker and be wrong.
You are incorrect.
Yeah, that's
Jake.
what I thought.
Oh, wow.
7 out of 10. Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad.
Now,
You
Jake,
have a bonus question, you said?
there is a bonus question, and I
Out of
actually
curiosity.
That's
I
where it
have
gets
a proposition
juicy.
for you, Jake. I'm not going to tell you the bonus question beforehand. You need to either agree to it now, or it's off the table. Okay?
Okay.
If you get this bonus question correct, I will personally hand deliver you a Potatocast Challenge Cup trophy.
Oh. Yeah.
Now
I
think
got
about
it.
it. There's only 2 people in the entire world right now that have this cup, and one of them is Jason.
Well, just so you know, Joaquin, I have a very tall display case with a lot of shelves. It's where I keep my signed Stan Lee hammer. And
I've seen it.
If you were to do this for me, because I am accepting, I will be taking your cup trophy and placing it right in the middle.
Now, just to clarify, so you already accepted.
I'm in.
You're already in. But if you get it wrong, though, you lose. You do in general.
Yikes.
I should have prefaced
You
that.
do. You do.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah. You bought in a little
Unclear.
bit too quick.
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
you know
no.
what? I do feel kind of bad for not prefacing that. If you decide you don't want to take the bonus question, that is okay. But you have 5 seconds to decide.
Oh no.
5, 4,
I'm
3.
gonna go no. No, I like winning.
Oh, lame.
I'm lame. I'm copping out.
So
That trophy case is gonna stay dusty then.
disappointing.
Shame.
Just because, well, okay, so I started out so strong, but I just failed straight after winning. So I feel like it's a coin toss, and I'm not trying to gamble my life on this one.
All right. Well, do you want to take a shot at the question?
Okay.
anyways?
Yes.
All right. Now, I know that when we were working together at Staples, you introduced me to Robinhood, even though I couldn't get it working right.
Yep.
So, I know you have some idea of, stocks. So, Jake, what was the highest value the MGM Resorts International stock hit since 1988?
Thank
Is it
God
A?
I passed.
Is it A, 91.50?
It's multiple choice. It's multiple choice.
B, 67.32, C, 14.32, or D, 133.09?
If I were to guess,
Those numbers would have went in one ear.
yeah,
and
if
out
I
the
were to
other.
guess, I'd go with A91.
You should have taken the trophy.
Wow.
You should have taken the.
That
Oh,
was a
you-
pure guess, by the way. Pure guess.
Oh.
Oh my God.
I'm sad for you. You could have. You are. However, you are the Potato Cast Cup champion,
Yep.
but you do not actually get a Potato Cast Cup. I'm sorry, Jake.
This is outrageous. It's unfair. Sit down. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you so much for this honor. This is amazing. I feel. I'm gonna put that on my resume.
Yeah, you can at least carry that title.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, honestly,
course.
this was a lot of fun.
This is so much fun. I would so do this again. Anytime you guys want me, I'm down.
That is what we love to hear. This is what we love to hear. Well, Jake, where can people find you?
I'll tell you. You can find
your
us across
medias.
social media.
Yes, this is the time for shameless plugs.
Yeah, very, very shameless plugs. You can find us across social media at Cake Camara, which is just my name with the initials reversed. That's our entire channel's thing because we don't really have a channel thing. Hot quality content doesn't really fit. It's over the character limit on like every site, so I just took my handle and made it the channel's handle. YouTube.com/hot quality content is where the entirety of our content is. Every single video we have under the blue moon that we've uploaded is up there. It is a spectacular journey for those who are uninitiated with our content. Just click one, see if you like it. If you do, we got a lot more like it. And as time goes on, I pour more effort and energy into the show, so it only improves, in my humble opinion, as the guy who makes it. So, take that with a grain of salt, but I'm proud of it.
And everything will be linked in the description, so there's plenty of beautiful links people can click on.
And Jason, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram, Twitter, at catpoop66. And that's kind of it.
All right. Pretty much the same deal, just no Instagram. Pretty much everything else at 12-star. Yeah. Well, Jake, thank you again for being, the guest on episode 12 of the Potato Cast. And I hope everybody listening has a good night.